you know.
Yeah, real quick.
Today's Tuesday, February the 7th. We're at the Civic Center for our pre-agenda workshop. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin. Ms. Albrecht.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Putnam.
Here.
Thunder here.
Thank everyone for coming. It's a great night.
Please use your microphones, especially tonight.
It's covered. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the Highway 98 resolution. I've been very interested this week. There's been a lot of questions asked about this, and for me, it's a very simple thing. Go ahead, Mel. You've got the stuff on it.
Sure. Your packet contains the actual resolution that was suggested by DOT. In that resolution, the very last paragraph says that we will enter into a transfer agreement with DOT later on to take ownership of 98 through Mexico Beach. And that means we're responsible for it. That means we get the benefits of having it. We can change it how we wish. We can add signs without needing permission. We could even, when we redo it in 20 years, even put in a turn lane, which is not now there, nor is it in the plans this year later on. It's now built to DOT standards, and it will be resurfaced at DOT standards, but when we resurface it in 20 years, we can resurface it at our standards, whatever those might be at the time. The negative that I've heard about the whole thing is being able to fund the cost of resurfacing and milling in future years. The easiest way to do it is put back $25,000 a year for 20 years. That puts us to $500,000. DOT assures us that there are plenty of grants, especially for small cities, to pay for most of that, more like in the tune of 80% of the whole project. So there's all this worry out there about us not being able to afford this in future years, when in fact we should be just fine. The DOT representative did say that if we did not wish to take ownership of Highway 98, then Bay County will take it over. And of course, at that point, we are subject to whatever Bay County wants us to do in these future years. So have you all heard positives, negatives about this whole project?
Actually, I hadn't heard any. No one's talking to me about it necessarily. But I did hear loud and clear the concerns about the maintenance on the highway. So I did a little background check myself. The best example I can give everyone to kind of waylay your fears a little bit, Highway C30 in Gulf County was paved all the way from Highway 98, all the way to the Cape, all the way to the state park, all the way to county line, and all the way to Indian Pass with grant funds. Wasn't their money. And this will be C30A in the future, just like that. I do believe there are plenty of grant funds out there to help small cities to take care of things like this in the future. But I really believe that it's a good thing for Mexico Beach, where development along 98 will no longer have to meet DOT standards on everything we do. A very good example is the engineering to turn into our new park. It had to be a DOT ingress egress with drop boxes and drainage and retention ponds and all that stuff. That wouldn't apply if we had that road of our own. But really, I haven't got any comments one way or the other.
Okay, I have gotten some comments, and most of them is initiating by me asking. I wish people would give their opinion on, you know, what they think about it. The main thing when I talk to people is, you know, what's it going to cost us? And then they have, you know, according to where you live, they have a concern with, you know, us allowing golf carts or whatever. A negative for some of them would be golf carts, would be coming down the beach roads. We have, a problem sometimes with vehicles coming on the dead ends. What would that allow, if you allow that, if we became a golf cart community? But again, I encourage, everybody to look at the positive, look at the negative, and give us feedback, because all we can do is offer our opinion. If we don't get feedback, I put it in writing that please, we've got several things coming up, and I've had 2 responses so far, only 2, and both of them against. So, I encourage everybody to look at it and give it a lot of thought and respond to us, because again, my opinion is only as good as anybody else's opinion. And I would like feedback from people as to what they think.
I probably had 10 or 12 people talk to me about it, and most of the time I've initiated the conversation. I had 2 people call me on the phone, and they were adamantly against it because of the cost factor. But most of the people are not that negative after you explain to them just what the mayor mentioned a few minutes ago, and the fact that I kind of like the idea of us being in charge of the road instead of Bay County winding up in charge of the road. So, but again, it doesn't seem to be bothering too many people.
All right, I must have the negative group. Mine were all against it, except for one. They were for it, however, that person said that CDC should pay half of it, because they thought that we were in charge of CDC. That's not an option. CDC is their own entity, they have their own budget. But everybody that emailed me was against it. And I personally am not for it. I'm concerned with the cost. We're a fishing village. I know people don't want to say that, but we spend so much money on the canal. And we don't have money for a new firehouse or a fire truck. Where are we going to get the money for the road? And Mel's idea of putting $25,000 a year is great, but if we can do that for the road, why haven't we been doing that in the past years for the fire department? So I think that we have issues here that we need to take care of first before we go out and say, okay, we like the idea of owning it and doing what we can, but we don't have the money for it. I know you have grants, but that's this year. Who's to say in 20 years that there's going to be any money out there for us? Who's to say? Talk is cheap right now. There's no guarantee that you're going to have money in 10 years or 15 years from the state. So I'm totally against it. I just think that we don't have the money for it. We have other things. The fire department is in great need of a house and a truck and other things. And we're not taking care of them.
Okay.
How many emails did you get?
5, 6.
I was wondering, when does this, they may not do this bypass for 6 or 7 years. When does this, if we pass it, when does it take effect that it's our road? After it's finished?
After they complete the new road.
Okay. So it could be 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah, this is just a resolution of support
Gotcha.
for the project. I'll only say one more thing, and we'll put it on the voting agenda for next week, as we're going to. I didn't fully understand this project until I actually got into it and started working with it. Put yourself in somebody who lives in Port St. Joe's shoes, and they work at Tyndall. They have to leave St. Joe, drive till they get to the 45 mile an hour, then they drive about 4 miles through that. Then they have to drive another 3 miles through 35 miles an hour just to get to Tyndall. This new road will be a back beach road where it'll actually come out right in the curve down here between St. Joe Beach and St. Joe. and just simply drive around behind the two swamps and then come right back into 98. All that high-speed traffic, or those folks that are in a hurry down there, takes them off the road through Mexico Beach. They're not our customers, they're not coming here for vacation, they just need a better way to go to work. The other part is taking all the commercial traffic off the road. It'll intersect at 386 on one edge of town, it'll intersect at 98 on the other end of town.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear. And I didn't state this. I am for Back Beach Road, absolutely. What I
Okay.
don't like is the last paragraph, additionally. The city of Mexico Beach will enter an agreement. That's the only thing I don't like. The rest of it, I'm all for it. I'm all for putting the road back there. I think it's a great asset for Mexico Beach and everybody else around. I just don't like the idea of us owning the road and having to take it. We would lose money right now that the state gives us to maintain the road. We would lose that. Was it about 14,000 or something?
Yes.
And so that's another 14,000 that we're going to have to come up with yearly just to cut the grass and take care of the palms and whatever else has to be done. So automatically, we would lose 14,000. So that's what I'm against. I'm not against the road. I'm against us owning the road.
At next week's meeting, when it's up for a vote, it can be brought in its form as it is presented. If that gets voted down, then we go to Plan B, which is voted in, but take that last paragraph out, because DOT would still like a letter of support or a resolution of support from the city council for Gulf to Bay Highway.
You know, one thing too, I just drive down the road and see a log truck or two. Tonight I sat and looked at the road, and I was amazed at the number of log trucks that came by in a 30-minute period of time. One appealing thing is that you could restrict that. I mean, it may get restricted anyway because it's a bypass, but you could virtually eliminate it. And the speed limit they were going through, gee, Kelly, I don't know that they were 35.
No.
We have monitored that. The amount of traffic that come through there, it's unbelievable.
It is.
You'll get 4, 5, 6 at a time in the morning, and then scattered parts of the day.
All day long,
and a handful
yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So it definitely for safety, public safety, them being routed over would be better for the city.
Did you know, Linda, that Panama City Beach also had the same reservation when they built Back Beach, and they refused to take ownership. And through time, they've actually been forced now to own part of it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but they took the same position you're
Now,
taking.
and
sorry.
why were they forced to do it?
Just sheer abandonment by the state. And the state said, we're not going to maintain this anymore, you have to.
So what about like Seaside and Seagrove and all that area there? That C30? Who's in charge of that?
That's a county.
Walton County. Okay,
The county.
not Bay County. Okay.
Something else I learned today was that one of the alternatives that may help us is that should we take ownership of 98, we can get it designated as a scenic highway, which I think is very appropriate. And that then would also take us to another level of grants and that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was
thing.
going to say, it would definitely help with grants.
And Linda, one thing you said about trimming palms and keeping up, and this is for a future thing, I would like to consider at some point that we use in their inmate cleanup on the roads and stuff. I mean, when I walk down the sidewalks and everything, I know we don't have time to get the sand and the grass, and the sidewalks are half done, and the bike paths. I don't ride to Windmark anymore to go work out because they get so narrow in places that maybe we could use that as, you know, that resource is to taking up some of
I
that.
like that idea.
Okay.
Question?
Yes, sir. Right there.
Doug Watson, 109D, 37th Street. To the city administrator. My opinion would be, you never would want to give control to someone else. If you have a chance, an opportunity to get control of that road, take it, seize it. Don't let anybody mess with it. That way you can decide what's going to be done. My question, two questions or concerns. The tax dollars that you get from the fuel, how is that calculated? Is it just a percentage or is it based on the length of road that you maintain now? Is 98 involved in that? You get tax money for maintaining 98, or is that just the money you get to mow grasses from DOT and not from taxes?
Yeah, the money we get to maintain 98, which is the mowing and the pickup and trash and that sort of thing, that comes directly through DOT, through a company called ICA, and then they pay us directly from them.
So there was one meeting where you discussed you got about $50 or something thousand a year through the gas tax. When people buy gas, you get it directed back to the city.
Correct.
To maintain roads, is that based on measurement of roads that you maintain, or is it?
No, that's That's more of a Adrian question, because I don't remember
It
what.
comes
I
directly
think it's
from the state
a
to
population
us.
thing, isn't it? Like the sales tax?
This one's really complex, but I'm going to try. Just give me a second to read about it again.
Well, he's reading another source of income that we may have been forgetting is the half-cent surtax that was enacted come January 1 of this year. That's about $100,000 a year that we'll be getting for that. And that's got to be used for infrastructure, so we could always set back a little bit out of that if that would be the desire of the council.
But if you're not getting taxes off of 98 now from the gas tax to maintain, and we assume ownership of it, and you would get that much more revenue, and with the bypass, it adds all those miles to that.
No, totally different.
Yeah,
Gas
98 's
purchased. It has nothing to do with the roadway.
98's a state road anyway right now, so we get nothing for it.
So the gas tax, you get it
Because we have gas stations that sell it here.
That's the only reason. It has nothing to do with maintaining roads.
It's, the county as a whole collects gas tax of 1 to 6 cents on every net gallon of motor fuel sold within the county. And then that total amount is divvied out to every respective area in the county based on population. So not necessarily is every dollar you're spending here coming back here, but it's based on population comes back.
Nothing to do with road.
No.
Okay. And then the last part of my concern was, you would also assume maintenance and inspection of the two bridges. The bridge at the canal and the bridge at Toucans. That still stays under DOT?
Those are regulated by the Coast Guard, not by DOT.
The bridge?
Yeah.
It's a different division.
So who maintains
Same
the
as,
bridges?
same as North 36th Street, that's fixing to go in next year, is dictated, we're building, or DOT's building, dictated by the United States Coast Guard.
So
They tell us what we can or can't
So
have.
DOT continues to maintain maintenance and construction that falls in. They fix the bridges. You don't have to worry about the bridges when you assume ownership of 98.
Because it crosses over a waterway,
Okay. They pay for all that, so you don't have to worry about that as a cost.
same as the North 36th Street Bridge, yes, sir. That's why we're not paying a dime for that.
You know, all of the bridges in Mexico Beach gets inspected, some twice a year, some just once a year. Even the 15th Street Bridge over that little, if you want to call it a canal, they inspect that for us as well, because that's under their jurisdiction. But the 15th Street belongs to us, not the state or the county. It's a pretty sweet deal.
You don't have to worry about the bridges. I just want to make sure you have what you did control 98. You have the opportunity.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is LED lighting. We took this up before. We had some concerns about health issues and things. Mel, you put a lot of stuff in the packet about LED lighting. We've all had a chance to look that up too. You want to talk about that again?
Sure. There was not a great concern, but there was some concern on some of the public that these LED lighting situations would be such that it would give you headaches, it would be working against your health, things of this sort. That was based on some studies that says that, but whenever there's a study for one thing, there's another study for something else that comes out that says, well, they did that before we did this standard and whatnot. So some of the stuff in the packet that I included says that all the other stuff is hogwash. So you can believe who you want to believe. on that, LED lighting is a brighter, whiter light, and that may hamper some people's ability to see better or worse, I don't know. But we have a lot of areas in Mexico Beach with that current yellow lighting that we've got, that it's really substandard for safety reasons. You know, when you talk to the police chief, there's a lot of areas that really need brighter lighting, and this would help us immensely. Also, I found out that one of the questions was, because the LED lights are shining down, how far out does the lighting go? And I was told that the LED has a wider ability to spread the light, so that if you've got a light at the corner, it kind of shines a little further down the block. So it will certainly help safety quite a bit. One of the things we were looking at then is cost. The deal from Duke Energy is that they will install the lighting at their cost. And, you know, if we had to pay for that, you know, for the 100-some lights that we've got, that would be very expensive. So that's a sweet deal for us, so we don't have to worry about installation costs. They are aware of our turtle lighting ordinances. They don't want to do anything to hamper that in any way. If something comes about where there is a concern about that, they will come out and readjust it or do whatever they can to put in a different LED light or something. So rest assured that the turtle concerns will be met. One of the things they did say that they really don't want to do is that if there's a major concern about the area next to the beach, they can certainly go around and install part of the LED lighting in other parts of the city and leave one section alone so that people can see the benefit of the LED lighting. And then eventually, once they see that's okay, then they'll come back out and trade out the other ones. But of course, once you're in this project, from their standpoint, they want to come in and just get it all done and be done with it. So this helps the fact that right now we have a lot of lights that go on and off quite a bit because the ballasts are bad. And LED lighting, we'll never have that worry again, because LED lighting is either it's on or it's off. It's never in between.
Plus, it burns a lot less electricity.
A lot less electricity. I had Adrian do a quick analysis today, and he took that bull by the horns and really did some ciphering for us. And he took the proposal that Duke had, where we were going to have to pay like a couple $100 more per month for the rental, which would be offset by the reduction in the energy charge. And if you consider the increase in the rental and the decrease in the energy usage charges, it's now coming out to be like a little over $100 a month, meaning more we got to pay than what we would be saving. So that all being said, I'm not done negotiating with Duke yet, because we got it from over 200 to just about 100 now. So we're going to try to see if we can get them down a little bit more. But that all being said, $100 a month, which is $1,500 a year if you want to call it that, in my opinion, is a small price to pay for the safety aspect all around through town, to where the police will have a better tool to help them out. Right now, when they actually see something in the darker hours, the current lighting is so bad that they really can't see all they need to be seeing. So I think LED would certainly help a lot of their efforts. And if you wish to hear that from the chief, I'm sure he could say it probably much better than I am. But
And in addition to that, you can also have the bear population be illuminated, whereas the yellow lights themselves are so subdued. When you do walk around a residence, it is hard to see. So there's benefit to this particular light. So I'm all for it, without a doubt.
And the process that we'd go by, if the board decided to go ahead, then Duke Energy would come out and actually do a physical audit on all of our lighting around the city. And at that point, we determine, you know, all the details and specs of all this, and at that point, we get a lot better feel for everything. So it's up to you as to where we go from here.
Can I touch on New Mexico? Anybody that's been down around New Mexico at night, it's pitch black. I think there's one street light on that entire road down there. We've had 3 or 4 new homes being built in there within the last 2 to 3 years, and I've had a couple of the new owners come in requesting streetlights. Well, after 2 days of conversations with Duke Energy, originally we were going to go back with or put in the amber lighting, like you see around town now. After thinking about it, we decided, which we can always go back to the amber lighting, but we're going to install 3 LED lights out there. One reason being because it'll give us an idea of what we got, what we could get. If we don't like it, we can always change it. You know, they assured me that if whatever reason they ain't working, we can go back to the amber lights. And the other thing that they told me was, we choose to go LED or not, it doesn't matter, we're going LED. Duke is just simply not stockpiling the ballast or those lights anymore.
Say that again. Whether we choose to do it or not, we're still going to be forced to do
Eventually,
it.
we're still going to go to the LEDs because they're just not keeping that
You're not gonna maintain any inventory
right.
of the old system.
Okay.
Now, I don't mean to say this and show any disrespect to Duke, but I take what they say with a grain of salt sometimes. So whether that could be a ploy, I don't know. But I do know that we're going to install 3 lights on New Mexico LEDs within the next. Duke's schedule is pretty lax, so within the next 8 to 10 weeks, hopefully they'll be up, and at that time, you know, we can all check it out and see what we think about it, and talk to the neighbors or the people that live over there and see how they feel about it.
What's the timeline if we approve this next week? What's the timeline? Do you have any idea? Have they, for our city?
I don't have a.
Okay.
I didn't talk to them on the city level.
Okay.
Just on the New Mexico
Okay.
level.
Oh, you told the scheduling thing, as soon as
Okay.
we give them the green light, then they get their people out to do, the inspection and get all that lined out, and then they'll schedule the crews to come out.
Well, this is really just a guidance thing. This doesn't require a council vote. It's just something we need to do in the city. That's why Mel's coming to us for guidance, really. I don't have a problem with proceeding with the LED. I think they're better lights.
I can, just to make sure we're all covered, I can contact my Duke people and make sure that, is the verbal all you need from us, or do we need some sort of resolution? So I'll find that out, and if it requires a resolution, I'll pop it on the agenda for next week.
And while you're talking to them, see if they'll reduce that price a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do.
Any questions on the line? I would recommend you twist their arm very hard. Because my understanding is a security light like you're paying for, just like a homeowner, you're paying a flat fee per month for each light, correct? No matter how much electricity goes through, they just average what it is. That's just their cost of the light. You don't pay kilowatt hours on your light.
We
correct?
do.
How do they meter it?
We pay electric charge.
It's just a flat fee per pole, per light, whatever size it is, depending on the size.
This is the same every month, Adrian?
Yes.
So,
So we'll play it
yes,
back.
it would reduce the kilowatt hours because you're doing the LED, so they're saving a heck of a lot of money if you switch to LED. They're saving money on their energy costs, but we're
Yeah.
still paying the same price, so, hey, we'll go to LED tomorrow. Give us 25% off our whole bill right now. We can do it otherwise. We've got 25% of the lights aren't working, correct? They haven't done anything.
A lot of them are.
Since the last time we talked about it?
Right.
So, hey, you want us to cooperate, give us some money off. You've made a lot of money off all the people in this region for a long time. But my understanding is that flat fee, if they're going up on both the rental and the kilowatt hour charge, that's not fair. They're saving a lot of money.
This agreement's not real clear about that. It does say it's a rental amount, and the rental fee is only about $200 difference. But you're correct. If a sodium light burns 250 watts and you replace it with a equal lumen light that only burns 40, then that's 6 times less energy, which is good for everybody.
Good for everybody.
Good for
Everybody
everybody.
wins if there's less energy. We're paying the same amount of money. Give us something.
Or $100, I thought it was $100 extra. was it more, 100 a month more?
That's
Based
what we
on
figured today, right?
Why don't we let them pay us for taking the LEDs?
There you go.
There you go.
I have a question.
Yes.
So is Duke proposing to put in the bright blue lights, or Philip just mentioned we could possibly go to the amber? From what I've read, the amber could be much better, so which is Duke proposing?
I think they're all 5,000 Kelvin, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah, but there's a big difference in the color spectrum.
I mean, 5,000 is not the top, but it's pretty bright. It's pretty white looking.
So it must be the blue lights.
This document that we've got in here talks about those lesser output LEDs actually consume more power and are less efficient than the 5,000 level. Not sure about that, but I'm sure what it says, but I'm not sure if that's real.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to interpret that material, so
It is. All
don't
right.
just take Duke's word for it.
So Mel's going to continue to negotiate a little bit. You're going to bring it back one more time, find out if we need a resolution.
Right.
All right. Put it on the agenda, and we can take it off if we don't need it. Farmdale. I have in my hand version 7 of the developers agreement. The city code 52.30 says that when we provide water and sewer services outside the city limits, that the city shall approve such extension of services outside the city. It doesn't say city administrator, it doesn't say city council, it says the city. Perhaps the drafters of that ordinance left us some flexibility. A while back, we got so close on allocation, and I'm assuming this is true, it's before all of our times. The city council started running a little bit micromanagement on service outside the city. Because we were getting so close, we wanted to serve the citizens of Mexico Beach first, obviously, before we extended to the outside. Now that we have plenty of allocation for our sewer and plenty for water, I think in the future, we should at least consider whether it needs to be a council issue at all. We've got 600 more units of sewer and we've got plenty of water to go around. But having just said that as a comment, the Farmdale project, all they really need from us at this point is a letter saying we will provide you water and sewer. This document, which is 20-plus pages of writing, has now been revised and revised and revised. I don't know if y'all saw draft number 7. This is draft number 8, or this is final copy number 8. What this says is simply that we're going to provide water and sewer to Farmdale. They got to put in all the water and sewer at their expense. Once they get it all put in, the city of Mexico Beach is going to own all those facilities after we accept them from them. They are going to pay us up front a sewer impact fee of $172,656. That is the impact fee for all 65 units of sewer. This says on water, they are going to pay us $99,531, which is the impact fee for all of the water taps. Impact fees. This also says that this year they will pay us for 8 sewer taps and 8 water taps at a price of $26.56 for sewer. I'm sorry, that's not the right number. One moment. The water taps cost I'll get this right. The actual sewer tap costs $612.50. So that would be times 8. And water is $562.50. That would be times 8. This agreement is a little bit unusual. First of all, we don't require citizens of Mexico Beach to pay their to pay a water and sewer tap until they start construction. In this case, the developer will pay all of the impact fees up front, and they will pay 8 water and sewer taps per year for the next total of 8 years to get all the taps paid for. It says, this document says, if the houses go faster than 8 a year, they will come back and pay the water tap and the sewer tap for any house or anything that needs to be connected. This document says that all lines built by that contractor will have a 1-year warranty to make sure that all of that works. Our only requirement in this development agreement for Mexico Beach is that we reserve 65 units of sewer and 65 units of water for the use of Farmdale, which is outside the city, which is 16,375 gallons of water and of sewer per day. Now that is a real condensed version of this development agreement. I don't know how many engineer hours, how many lawyer hours it took to get the words right, but I believe we finally got it.
And they pay a 25% surcharge?
Those numbers include a 25% surcharge on both the impact fees and the usage charges.
And then once it's completed, we accept maintaining the system?
We will maintain the system. They're going to pay us a total of $373,000 for the benefit of having water and sewer service for the city.
Will Philip be able to be there to overlook the system as they put it in so that it meets his standards?
Not just his standards, it has to meet the code for installation, and it has to meet Mexico Beach ordinances.
So will you be involved as they're putting it in, or?
Me, Mary, and Kevin, all three of us will be
Okay.
involved. I'll be there because, public works director, but Mary and Kevin will be there because they're more knowledgeable in this than I am. So they'll be required to be there as
And
well.
of course, our engineers are going, they're actually working with their engineers for the exact design specification. But in general, that design specification, correct me if I say anything wrong, Jeff, but we're going to extend a 10-inch water main across 98. Everything's on the north side of 98 right now. We're going to extend that to the south side of 98. That water main is going to feed Farmdale, and it's going to have excess capacity to feed other people that may come. We're going to extend the sewer main under 98 to Farmdale side. It's going to be some sort of a vault structure where they can tie into it and future developers can tie into the same access point into the system. There'll be one additional wet well that'll be gravity fed from Farmdale into the tail end of the system, and that's where they will force it up to our force main and join our pipe. Really, if you think about it, 16,000 gallons is not a whale of a lot, and it'll probably take, I'm guessing even with great construction folks and lots of people just buying up these lots, it may take a full 8 years before we ever see a full load coming out of there. But if we accept these funds, then we're obligated to reserve. Once they pay both the impact fee and the tap fee, then it's 8 units reserved this year, another 8 next year, another 8 next year. But we'll get to enjoy the use of the impact fees from the beginning.
So there's no way we could charge them a maintenance fee down the road if we accept it after it's installed?
Well, if we accept it, we will own it, the same as we own the system up at Beacon Hill.
Are we locking in the tap fee rates for 8 years when we're already not charging enough to pay for our meters by doing this?
What was the question?
So are we guaranteeing a tap fee rate for 8 years by doing this when we're already not charging enough for the meter cost?
It does have a specific amount of money in there. Perhaps to protect us, we should have Nick insert some language where if the tap fee gets increased, that
They have to pay the new rate.
to pay the new
Okay.
rate.
There is some language in here that provides for incidental expenses beyond normal, particularly on connection fees. But we don't have right now a fee called a connection fee. We have a tap fee.
So what is our tap fee right now, Adrian?
That was those last two numbers I gave you.
Oh, okay.
then
But
that's
you said
That's 25% higher than our.
Right.
25% higher than our
Right.
current number.
Right,
Our current numbers are 490, I think.
right. But you're saying that as time goes on,
I think we're already, what's a new meter cost? Mary just talked to me about
that's
this
what I
last
was
week.
getting at.
I think our meter's at 480 or so.
So why are
It's not
we,
likely to be less in 8 years either.
so why are we giving these costs if our meter is already at 480?
Well, as long as we're good with not locking this rate in for 8 years,
Yeah.
we're fine. That's all I need to know.
If we can make sure that whatever the current rate is, that's what they pay.
So Nick will reword it somewhere?
We'll make sure that, I thought there was some language in there that if that goes up, they will pay that anyway, but rather than sit here and try to find it and fumble, we'll make sure that.
It has, the wording has to do with installation charge. If they do something, if we do something, and it goes back and forth with that installation charge. It doesn't specifically say that. But what are we really talking about? $100 difference in 64 units? Against $343,000?
Aren't you talking about like in year 5 and year 6? So we have, if the cost for us has gone up from 480, let's just say it goes up to 620. And if we, aren't you saying that's, and then if we still have this in writing, that it's 650, that's not 20, we're losing money, that's not 25%. So that's what you mentioned, Adrian, am I correct?
Kind of. I just need to
Yeah.
do some reading. I haven't read it,
Right.
so I need to look at it now because there's things I didn't realize were going to be in there.
Yeah.
Well, this is some of the same math. The math was transposed directly out of our calculation into the document. I actually hadn't talked about what you're talking about at all. What are we actually paying for a meter? But a tap fee includes us going and taking and tapping a line and hooking a meter on it and connecting it to a distribution line.
So we can charge whatever it is at that particular time,
25% over that.
over that.
We're going to have to make this agreement say exactly that.
Yeah.
Because there's another paragraph in this agreement that said, basically, what's in this document is what we were going to do.
No,
And we even changed words as late as today to make sure there was continuity, where the words, there's 3 words that could easily be interchanged and have completely different meanings. The first is an impact fee, the second is a tapped fee, and there was another one that they use here called a connection fee. Well, we don't have a, quote, connection fee in our language. So we got rid of that word because that's not the right phrase, that's not the right word. They were actually interchanging those words in this document, and it's a whale of a difference. A water impact fee is it's $1,500. A water tap fee is $112. That's a whole big difference if you use the wrong word. That's not much. So all that has been straightened out, but with that,
all right, now the sewer impact fee and the water impact fee, the 172 and the 99,
right.
is that the amount that if we had 64 homes, a development, that's what it would be, or are we giving them a break?
No,
Would be-
it's actually just the opposite. It's
Today.
what our 64 units would have plus 25%.
Okay. All right.
It's 25% above what
So
a
I'm
Mexico
sure we're not
Beach
giving them
resident
a
would pay.
break.
It's a pretty big difference. Goes from 4290 to 5362. It's a pretty good premium increase. But remember, we're really talking about 2 things here. The thing that they need to continue with Bay County with their development is simply a statement from us that says, subject to us voting on this agreement next week. And we do need to vote on this agreement. This is an agreement with the City of Mexico Beach and the Farmdale developers. It is developers agreement for water and sewer utilities, Farmdale, Mexico Beach. This is a binding legal document, and we do have to vote on it because what we're doing is giving them water and sewer for 65 units. One of them's a clubhouse or something. But it's 65 units. We do have to vote on the terms of this agreement. So everybody will need a clean copy of this. We need to make that slight modification to make sure that we're not putting in meters that cost more than our tap fees cost. But as far as the agreement, I guess the question is, does anybody have a problem providing water and sewer to the Farmdale project?
I don't have a problem, but I don't think that we should give them,
We're not giving anything.
I don't think we should give them a blanket statement
Right.
right now, tonight, or tomorrow morning, saying, we will agree on this based on, I think we need to see the black and white copy of what we're agreeing on.
Well, that's this.
I know, but then we want some changes, so it's not this.
Right. The mayor indicated that we'll get the language changed to get that back out to you
Right.
as quick as we can.
What I was saying, a simple statement that says we'll agree, we will give it to you pending approval of this document at a voting meeting.
And also to be clear, because there's no annexation involved, the impact fees we're getting is just the water and sewer only. We won't be getting the police or the fire or the park and rec.
That's another discussion.
But it's a very, very small amount of money.
Correct.
Well, Bay County Sheriff handle that. Will we be responsible for police there? Hmm?
It depends on what our MOA with the county says.
The answer is responsible, no. However, if there's not a sheriff closer to what the call is than us, then we'll be the first to respond.
Do we even have a sheriff in Bay County that patrols over here? That's what I thought.
Now, if in the event we have an officer go out of town, because we are only limited one per shift, if there's an arrest, then hopefully somebody can't come here, otherwise the town's left unattended.
Now, fire's going to be a completely different animal. In Bay County, if you're not within a fire coverage area, every homeowner in this subdivision is going to have to pay a 1.8 mil fire tax. Remember when the chief came and talked to us about that? They're going to be responsible for Farmdale, and they're going to have to pay an additional 2 mils, nearly 2 mils of tax for that service.
And that goes to Bay County.
Yes.
We'll
Well-
probably do what they do currently and turn around and give us $15,000 a year to maintain their area.
Well, when we want to really discuss that, I have a whole list of things, but I'm not sure tonight's the time we want to discuss all that.
Do we furnish sanitation?
It's up to them. They could contract with the city for sanitation.
Okay, a contract.
And they're external. Right now, we don't provide any
We don't.
sanitation outside the city, but we could, being that Mexico Beach is the only municipality in Bay County that currently has their own sanitation department.
But they could get a private firm to come in and do
They
that.
could do waste management just as well,
Okay.
or Waste Pro. They're in the county, they can do whatever they like. But we took the invitation for immediate annexation off the table. Just too much conflict with their building standards and this and that. So any invitation that we gave them, we withdrew it. Will they be annexed in the future? That's for whoever's sitting here to consider if an application ever comes in several years from now, I suppose. Okay? Any other questions about Farmdale? Everybody has this now, I guess. Did you have, look on your computer and see if you got version 7, because the new one is called Comparison.
You know, the one that I printed out for everybody that they got is the latest where it had
Oh, that is the
compared
latest
to the old one to the new one.
The only thing that has to be adjusted is in paragraphs 5, where it's talking, specifically we're talking about water. It's in paragraph 505. That's where we're talking about those fees. That's the only section that needs amendment from what we're talking about. Okay, the fee schedule discussion. Mel?
Last meeting, we talked about the fees, and Adrian was kind enough to make up this schedule, which is more than anything out of our own convenience, because that way all of our fees are in one handy spot. We can post this on the website and have it in the office handy for people to see. But when it comes to adopting this fee schedule, many of these fees are already set by ordinance. In other words, even our copies and things of that sort are set by our ordinance and some by state statute. Everything to do with the water and sewer and sanitation is done by those ordinances. So we go to the golf carts, that's set by ordinance. The boat launch fee set by ordinance. On down for the residential and commercial development orders and that sort of thing. So it's really not a whole lot of what we can do to pass a resolution to adopt all this because it's already adopted by ordinance. That being said, we did speak about the canal slip fees, and we need to raise those over and above what they are on this fee schedule. I had a discussion with Nick about this, and if you look at our particular ordinance about the establishment of the slip fees, it says in there that the council can change those by resolution. But it also goes on to actually list those rates. And so my fear and Nick's fear is that if the council adopts a resolution increasing these rates, those old rates are still going to be in the ordinance and our code. And that's going to create people looking up the code and saying, these are the fees, you got them by ordinance right here. And then we say, well, by resolution we can adjust them. So the suggestion was made to adjust the current ordinance, whereas those fees are no longer listed, and as it said, that the fees are set by the city council. If Adrian could put on the screen one of those files in that little council folder called, I think, slip fees. I finished this today, so I didn't have time to get them out to y'all, but I certainly can. What we've got on the screen, the red areas are what is exactly in our ordinance as we speak. The blue is what we discussed last meeting as to what you want to increase these to. So I think that's fairly straightforward. If you scroll on down, Ordinance 445 is the ordinance that established these fees. What we're doing is taking out the language about the table, and it says where the resolution is how the city council can change those fees. If you keep scrolling on down, you can see where those fees are now stricken. There's another addition about the maximum vessel length shall be 35 feet. Exceptions are allowed on a case-by-case basis. What happens now is the harbor master has to go onto a new boat and actually measure the length of those boats. Because we've increased the fees to $30 per boat, most boats you don't need to measure because they're below 30 feet. So we're going to take out the requirement to do that. If there's anything over 35 feet, then that's got to be on a case-by-case basis because we can't accommodate a lot of 35 feet length in those boats. So what we'd like to do is to throw this ordinance into a new ordinance form for next week to accomplish what we talked about and pass a resolution with these new fees in that resolution. So if that's what the council wishes to do, we can prepare those for next week's meeting.
Now, why can't we do a lot of ordinances like that in the future, going forward as ordinances are amended, to put all the fee schedule in one place so it'd be a whole lot easier to find?
That makes sense.
Because you could simply change the ordinance to say it's set by the city council and is reflected in the fees, the annual fee resolution.
Exactly. Because it's the intent to pass a resolution once a year during the budget time, once you establish any need to increase anything, And so it would be established at that point, and it'll be done on an annual basis, and that way, things don't get stale like they've done over the years now.
It works for me.
Yeah, go for it. We have the less expensive dock fees of anybody around, right?
We do,
Still,
even with the increase.
I would point out one thing in case somebody has any concerns. I believe that Chip Blackburn's boat is 41 feet. Where he slips in the canal, it's actually wider than other places in the canal. That's why Chip slips down there. And we allow him to have a little bit longer boat. It's just 39, 41, it's a little bit over 35. There's another boat down there called the Sia. It's 38 feet. But we're talking this much and not 6 or 7 feet. Because on the, the new slips, you stick a 35 footer in there and point it out, that's way too narrow. And that is, so we won't have any 35 footers out on the north-south line. But everybody will be accommodated that we've been slipping. Anything else on the fee schedule?
Not at all.
Okay. Let's talk about marijuana. We have a proposed ordinance in our packet, which is basically a moratorium ordinance to give the state more time to set the parameters for what the municipalities will do. And this is something that needs to go into effect sooner than later. We had a lot of questions about that. If you read this, next guidance is pretty much, you need to get this in place now, and you'll figure out what to do later.
Right, and this is the same ordinance that Bay County has adopted, Panama City Beach, Panama City, Parker. I've kind of used the same language, and we've kind of copied off one another. You know, the only exception in Bay County was Lynn Haven was a little bit more flowery, and there's their whereases and their twos and wherefores.
Well, we would expect that.
Right, but it's mostly the same ordinance everyone's adopted, so, and Nick's had a chance to look at it, and he's okay with the current form.
And this is a moratorium against growing,
Dispensing,
dispensing.
And that gives us 6 months.
yeah, 180 days, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And you anybody have a problem not putting this on, or putting this on the voting meeting?
No.
I'm very satisfied with it. It's well worded. Put that on the agenda, please. Planning and zoning recommendations, Mel. Before you start, I did get a concern message about the planning and zoning meeting. Go ahead.
Okay, should I ask what that is before I start?
Well, the concern was that even though we had, until yesterday, we had 6 members, only 3 were at the meeting.
That is correct. As you know, Mr. Teal had resigned, and Denise Kidder on Friday afternoon resigned, so that left 2 openings. Mr. Driver moved up to one of the top 5s. Elizabeth Wilker did the same. However, at Monday night's meeting, Mr. Coakley had notified us that he's got a family conflict, so he would not be able to attend. And I got a note from Mrs. Wilker this morning that, I don't know how to say this, she couldn't make it as well, so that was the reason we were 2 short. But you are correct, we did have 3.
But you did have a 3-member quorum.
Which was a quorum, yes,
Okay.
sir. So all the votes were legal and everything because of that.
Okay.
That all being said, we did review the application of variance request for Nicholas DeLallo for the pool in the front yard at 614 Highway 98. He requested that we wait 1 more month until we have more members show up. So in other words, no vote was taken or needed at the time. He simply wants to get the full 5-member board at the meeting next month.
Okay.
So, nothing to do on that.
Have we gotten any inquiries to be?
We've gotten 1 inquiry so far.
Okay.
I'm hoping to get some more very soon because we need a couple of alternates, as you know. That brought the next, I will back up just a tad. Mr. Teal was the chair of the Plan and Zoning. They had previously elected Mr. Bush to be the second in command, shall we say, or the pro tem. So he started off the meeting, and then we immediately went into an election for the new presiding officer. And believe it or not, Mr. Bush was nominated and accepted the
Really?
chairmanship, yeah. Which no one was surprised.
Okay, that's fine.
Right. The next item about which we spoke was the parking on empty lots. They immediately turned to what we put on the back page, which was the changes about deleting the sentence, item number 3, and where it says it does not include trailers and recreational vehicles. They agree with the deletion of that. All of the additions down here that you, the council, have already looked at and discussed extensively, they reviewed and felt that was satisfactory. The only addition they made was in paragraph 3A, where it says recreational vehicles as one of the included vehicles that may be parked there, unoccupied recreational vehicles. So their recommendation on a 2-to-1 vote was to kick this back to the city council with that one change. There was a lot of discussion from the audience and among themselves. The discussion ranged from some not wanting any parking anywhere to others saying we're a fishing town, you should be able to park your boat where you have it. Others talked about the property rights. If you own a lot, you could do what you want with it. So it was all over the map, much like your discussions in the past. But it didn't go as near as long as what you guys did.
Can you email us that copy with what they would like changed?
You betcha.
So we have a chance to look at that.
That's easy.
So it's.
Is anyone here tonight to talk about the same issue? Yes, please.
I was at the meeting last night, and I wish that I had been thoughtful enough to do what the man who wants a pool in his yard and ask for a deferred vote until there would be 5 members present. But I'm able to let my emotions get the best of me because parking trailers and RVs are on empty lots, in my opinion. I just want to say this again, I've said it before, I think that it devalues our city, and I think that our city is better than that.
Okay, thank you.
Let me understand, they said it would be okay, they recommended okay to park trailers and RVs on a vacant lot, but not a boat?
That includes, I'll read you what the list includes. Vehicles may include cars, trucks, boat/trailer combos, utility trailers, unoccupied recreational vehicles, or other personal vehicles of this character. No commercial vehicles are allowed.
Basically
So
anything.
basically everything but commercial.
Pretty much, yeah. You can park your ATV there or whatever else you wish.
Does this have to be the next door neighbor's lot? Or is it anybody's lot?
It requires written permission from the owner for me to park something on somebody that's a friend of mine.
And they can't rent the spot?
They can't rent.
So your 8th Street address, you could park your boat at the vacant lot by Rex Putnell's house as long as you had the owner's written permission to do so.
That is correct.
Did they put in there a maximum number?
They left it at the up to 2, like you guys have discussed. So you can't have a mass parking lot anywhere.
Right.
Right.
Are we ready to put this on a voting meeting?
Well, I personally think we need to. We've been talking about it for how many months? And somebody came up to me and said, whatever happened to parking on the lots? And so I really think we need to, whether we put it on this voting meeting or we decide to hash it again on the workshop. But I think within a month, it needs to be on the voting meeting, either February or March.
Y'all ready to vote?
And we
Any
would
one
require this,
member can put it on the agenda, by the way.
we would require this person that's parking a vehicle there, or somebody's responsible, the owner of the lot is responsible for keeping the lot mowed and trimmed, no matter what's there.
Right.
It's also going to take 2 readings, so if we did read it next week, it wouldn't go on for another month.
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, this is where I encourage people to let us know what you think, because my boat's parked illegally. Been there for 11 years illegally. Didn't know it was, but it is. And I'm willing to do whatever we need to do. I understand about, when you look around, you kind of expect to see boats around on that side of 98 or around 98, but I understand about people's property on the other side of 98 when it gets, all kind of things show up. So I'm willing to do, whatever we decide is fine with me. My boat looks pretty good over there though, but if we, if that's the way we need to do it, I'm okay. But I encourage people to let us know what you think, because people around 98 and this side of 98 may think differently than people on the other side of 98. Because I, like the mayor, have ridden around, and I wouldn't want some of the things that I see next to my house that I see in the neighborhoods.
So we have an ordinance that says anything parked in the city limits has to maintain a current license plate, correct?
Right. It's got to be tagged.
That's not just a city, that's an actual state law.
So it is.
It's got to be signed.
Yes.
Our current ordinance does not allow for any parking of anything on an empty lot.
Right.
And that's, if I may, pardon me, that's something that, I don't even know why this was ever addressed for a change, because those kind of ordinances are there for a reason. It's to protect us as property owners, and it's not put there for a reason?
Oh, sure it is.
It is, yes.
Sure it is.
And to ensure that our city maintains its beauty. So I'm sorry if I said something that you disagree with.
No. I agree.
That will be nothing new, thank you.
No. And if it's written, if that's the way it's written, then that's the way it's written. If it needs to be changed, then, we need to change it. But it hadn't been enforced is what's happened.
Well, my problem's not with boats. My problem is, I bought my house, we're fixing it up, we put a lot of money in it, we're about to get a new roof, and the threat of somebody being able to park an RV, one of those things, just park there next door while I'm working hard on my house. I mean, I think that's a valid concern.
And that's offensive. My RV cost $80,000. But we understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It is a concern. What made this come up is the question, well, why weren't you enforcing it? And we tried to enforce it, and it became an uproar. I'm sorry, go
As
ahead.
far as boats go,
No, anything, in general.
And I only want to say, I missed your name.
I'm Lynn Newton. I sent you all an email today.
Okay. Well, I did know the face with the name, so thank you.
You need a face.
I'd just like to add, over the years I've been here, I've seen it ebb and flow. I know that we had the ordinance that it wasn't supposed to happen, but it wasn't enforced, and it got really junky for a while. We already have the ability to put boats, RVs, whatever, on your primary property where your house is, and if you own the adjoining land, that extends to that. So we've already got a lot of boats and trailers and everything already in a large portion of the residential section. Now this opens it up for the rest of the lots to suddenly have all this on there. And y'all Rex, you live down at the beach, I live on the back at Maryland. That's gonna get out of hand real fast, I can guarantee it. Because somebody's good buddies is gonna wanna bring his 2 boats down, and somebody's gonna give him permission. And so this, somebody who doesn't live in Mexico Beach, who just comes down here to fish and visit, is gonna be parking his boats in the vacant lots, and we've already got an enormous number of these vehicles already here. I can't do anything about the ones that are parked in front of my house, because the people live there. But, damn, that's an ugly pontoon boat I have to look at all the time. So, think about this, y'all. You're opening it up so that every vacant lot, if they can get permission, can put up to 2 more things in there. That's an awful lot of vehicles. And residential lots are not zoned for parking like that. Residential is not storage. And I get the fact that people own these lots, and I'm all for property owners' rights up to a point. I own property too. But y'all, this is gonna open us up, and we're gonna have nothing but house with everything, house with all this stuff, vacant lot next to house with all this stuff, vacant lot, and all this stuff parked there. And it's just gonna become a solid parking lot in the east side of town. So think long and hard about this. I still firmly believe that the city ought to look at getting a grant for economic development and purchasing some of the property on 15th Street and opening the same kind of storage facility that is sitting there by the post office. It could be a revenue stream for the city, and you could accommodate some of this. It takes a grant to get it. It's something that y'all need to look at, because it doesn't appear that some individual is jumping to open one up as a private business, so the city can. If you want people to bring their boats and fish here, you have to accommodate it in some way. But don't accommodate it in the vacant lots out in the residential section. Don't really think about this.
And I understand that the ordinance was written because it had gotten so bad, and that we have gotten it cleaned up a little bit, and now, since it wasn't enforced, and again, I didn't mean to park my boat illegally, but I understand. I do understand, and again, I'm a property owner too, and no matter where I was in the city, I would want it nice too.
Okay. Put it on the voting agenda?
Yes, I've been coming up here for 25 years. You've been, what, 42?
40-something, yeah.
Yeah, and we know exactly what you're talking about. That's 3 things we've agreed on.
Jerry, we're gonna have to stop meeting like this, buddy.
Please put this on the voting agenda. Okay. Miscellaneous. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I have a miscellaneous. 2 things, actually. We talked about the finishing the seawall. What has happened, I guess everybody knows, over the last week, we've discovered that we were able to pull back that concrete at the mouth of the canal, so we no longer have to deploy that great big barge. It was going to cost us another 40 grand. We were able to pull it back with an excavator that we had to rent to open up the canal. Our dredge is in annual maintenance. That's why that big long reach excavator is down there. It's cleaning out the canal so the boats can get in and out. We had it for a week, and we had to keep it for a second week. Yes, there's a lot of sand down there that we built up, but we've got to move it a little at a time as we can with the equipment we own. We're not digging out the west side particularly because we just got a grant to do that. We're going to have to pump it out as soon as we get the dredge back. And we'll have to work on also the second bar. We know that. But we've had a couple of horrendous storms in a row, and I bet you the one we had just a while ago didn't do us any good at the canal. So we're really working on it. We spent a lot of money. The other thing, though, the 85 sheet of sheath pile, that's working out just right. We're going to be able to drive it with what we got. They're going to be able to get through. Bill is telling me they're going to be through the 31st of March on both sides, which is just wonderful if they can get that done. We are going to have to consider and vote to put in a change order for an additional amount of sidewalk. that can indeed go all the way to the end of the jetty. We were down there and looked at that. I was down there with Philip and our engineer looking at that. He's here if you have any questions. That's a very minor cost. It will have a much more finished looks, folks, for just a little bit more, and we have the money to do that. But it'll be a sidewalk that goes all the way down to the jetty rocks. A lot of folks fish down there anyway, and it'll be a real nice addition to the project. They got a lot of dirt to move between now and the end of March, but they're telling me they're going to get it done. So that's good. So we will have to, if you'll get us a change order together for that sidewalk, we appreciate it. Do you want to add anything to that comment?
Is that sidewalk gonna go like the one it is now up on?
Yes,
the
ma'am.
rock?
Yes, ma'am. It's going to be tied in right with the cap on top of the steel. It will, however, go from 6 feet wide, eventually down to about 3 feet wide to a point, because we're not going to excavate any rocks or anything. It'll be built up to them, but it's solid concrete. The other thing, we have to talk about fish cleaning tables. It's time to talk about fish cleaning tables. I've got one group in town that's got some ideas, but I want to talk first, and then everybody here needs to talk because it's time. We already set aside 2 pad areas for fish cleaning tables at the canal. Everybody in town wants a place to clean fish, but this council already knows what I'm fixing to say. They may clean their fish there, but they can't throw the fish heads in the canal. That's a DEP thing. DEP is not going to give us any leeway on it. We're not going to spend $80,000 on a grinder, and we couldn't get permits to pump it out into the Gulf several thousand feet anyway at an astronomical cost. But let me do this personally. I still believe, well, no, let me tell you the rest of the idea. There's a group that wants the city to buy a walk-in cooler. They want that cooler installed next to the restroom down at the corner where the 2 boat docks make a V. They want it to be an electric cooled cooler. They want roll-in cans where anybody can come and put their fish guts in the cans, and they want the city to bring the truck over there and haul off all the fish guts every day and maintain the cooler. The minimum cost on the cooler is $18,000, and I have no idea what kind of maintenance cost it would cost to do that. Now, my point of view is this. I believe people need somewhere to clean their fish. I grant you that. But I hadn't changed my mind. It's going to be an open invitation, because if you're standing there cleaning your fish, the urge is just terrible. You got to take that fish head and throw it to a pelican or throw it in the canal. I don't know why we are that way, but we are. If we do put up fish tables, you got to be looking at this backdrop of this sign that said $500 fine for water pollution. And you got to look at it and know when they throw it in there, and the popo's going to come and have to give them a come to Jesus stamp for $500. And we're going to have to enforce that if that's what we do. I still believe that if I clean fish, it's my responsibility to take care of those fish heads and not the city on the backs of all the taxpayers, because there's a lot of folks that don't fish. That's just my point of view.
I agree. I mean, I put it under my tomato plant, so.
That's because you don't catch many fish.
That's true.
Because your boat's been sitting there for 11 years.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
think we need to invest money either for the cooler or for
No.
the fish cleaning stations.
Only thing we need to invest money in is cameras to film throwing it
That's
in
right.
there.
Yeah.
I just don't think we need to do that. And the hassle that you hear about, didn't Port St. Joe put them in and then they took them out because they were such a hassle and weren't working? So I think we need to learn from their mistakes.
Where would we put the fish cleaning stations?
Jeff, do you know where they put the extra pad?
They've got one pad on the north-south run, right about the midway point.
How far is it from the water?
6-8 feet.
Well, what about thinking about putting the cleaning station on the other side of the drive? So there's no tendency to throw it in the water.
By the bathroom.
No, we've already done that.
No,
I ain't gonna do that again.
I'm talking about wherever it is, just on the other side of the road.
That's
Do we have enough room there?
It's residential over there.
That's residential on that side.
Oh, farther down, I mean,
We don't own any of that property down there.
well, then they can't clean fish. Is that what you're saying?
It's a lose-lose, no matter which way you do. Because I understand people need somewhere to clean the fish if they don't have anywhere at home. Personally, I have my own table. I clean them, I put them in a bucket, I put them in my deep freeze. Next time I go fishing, I carry them offshore. Works great. But that's me. I live here and I know what's going to happen. But Billy Bob that comes down from South Georgia at the start of snapper season ain't going to do that. He doesn't have a freezer. He's in a vacation rental. He's going to do whatever he's going to do. And remember, the real answer is you can't put your fish heads in your trash can. I don't recommend putting them on Friday if you have a Thursday pickup and they don't come back till Tuesday. But that's the only legal solution that we have.
The other thing, Mayor, too, I just want to point out, is when you throw your fish carcasses into the canal, 9 times out of 10, they're going to wind up on the beach somewhere. And then we got to go out and clean it up. You know, there was a couple times last year we spent a couple of days with the push boat going up and down the channel there, picking up, I think it was 13 32-gallon trash cans full of fish carcasses, and I think old Nick and Ben lost a few pounds during that stretch from heaving over the side. You know, it was just nasty. It was bad. It was just really, really nasty.
It's a problem that's coming back. It comes back every fishing season, and we're going to have to address it again. But our contractor is going to be gone in 53 days, and that's part of our current contract. And we have a $30,000 grant to put in channel light markers and fish cleaning tables, along with our $30,000 match to that. So we have some supplemental funds to put them in. But we really need to make a decision so that he can put it on that change order to, well, it's really not a change order, it's just a delay. We need to tell the contractor to do it or not.
Wasn't there a boat captain who said he would, he was in Fort St. Joe, who said he would take the guts out and dump it?
We have a good local merchant that does that, but I don't know about what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, so there was a guy who fish had?
George.
Yeah, George.
George
Okay.
cleans fish.
George, yes.
He
Okay.
takes care of a lot of the charter boats, and he actually saves all the guts. He puts them in his skiff and he takes them offshore and dumps them,
Right.
which is a good thing. It's recycling
Yeah.
fish guts to the ocean.
And does anybody remember what year or when DEP told us we couldn't dump it in the canal anymore? Because I know we used to dump them in there.
It was when, I can picture the councilmen up here pulling their hair out. I know
It's actually
that
state law.
Mr. Woodham and Mr. Cathy,
Okay. All right, so sometime during the.
sometime there.
Okay, all right.
Because we tried popping the eyes, we tried a little of everything. Remember the petition where the fishermen said, hey, we'll pop the eyes, throw them in the canal and they'll sink to the bottom? It wasn't long after that DEP came down with a ruling and said, hey, you can't throw them in there at all. But we don't have enough tidal flow and all those fancy things to do that. Y'all think about that, but we need to give him some guidance in the next couple of weeks. He's coming down that side, he's going to need to put them in.
Maybe George is going to get in the business. And
Yeah.
the city pay him so much.
He is in the business, but we're talking tons, and we're not. We actually put trash cans out there one time beside the cleaning stations, and the trash man had to tote the cans up, and I could see 4 or 5 35-gallon cans that weighed 250 pounds, and the guys couldn't even tote them up the steps, and that was every day. That didn't work either. So I don't know how many pounds we're really talking about.
All I can say for sure is it's a lot.
It's tons, it really is. If you catch 200 pounds of saltwater fish, you may go home with 80 pounds of fillet. And the other 120 pounds is wasted. And
How much property do we have around the restrooms?
Very, 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 very little.
just a little turnaround space. We put a dumpster at the restroom one time.
That was horrendous.
Not a good idea.
I remember that.
You couldn't put enough bleach in that thing to kill the smell. Ask Jackie Spann.
Well, you can buy a chemical that'll take care of the smell, but you can't afford it. That's the problem. It's too expensive.
So y'all consider that again. I'm sorry I had to bring it up again, but it came up, and it's time to consider it. I'm not in favor of spending $18,000+ of city money just to do away with fish heads. I think it's the fisherman's responsibility to discard them.
Where are they gonna put them at, Peter? Where are they gonna put them at?
I'll take them back out. They got them out there. They got to have a way to go back.
I don't believe it's gonna work the way you think it's gonna work. I believe they're gonna discard them somewhere at Crooked Isle, or you look around, you see it's happening.
Oh,
They're gonna do
right.
something with it, but I think it's y'all's responsibility. I know y'all don't catch these fish, but I believe if you don't do something, you're gonna find fish carcasses everywhere, places in a ditch, a dumpster that they build a house, they're gonna get rid of that. They do it around my house all the time.
You are completely correct. I'm with you 100%.
But-
Around, they put them around the over here, around
They gonna do
the
something.
ramp.
So my saying is, I believe if you don't do something, then you think you have a problem, it's gonna get worse. I don't think you got enough policemen to write the tickets during snapper season of people discarding fish. So I believe, in my opinion, which I fish every day, that there needs to be a fish cleaning station in Mexico Beach. Mr. Albright just said this was a fishing village. I believe it's y'all's responsibility as councilmen in the city to furnish a place to clean fish and discard the head of goods. And that's my opinion.
And I'm not arguing.
If you don't, I'm not doing it. If you don't, then it's gonna get bad.
I'm not.
You know it
Yeah.
too.
I'm not arguing with you at all. I was a captain for 10 years.
Yes, I know.
And I'm not arguing with you at all about anything you said. Absolutely true. But this is an honest question. Who should pay for the discarding of heads?
I agree with you.
I mean, who?
You think them fishermen that went out and caught them fish is gonna throw in the ditch or something? No. It's gonna get out of hand.
I don't think they would put them in a walk-in cooler either.
I understand, but I think $18,000 would be a lot cheaper. In my opinion, it's not, I think it's reasonable for a cooler. If you fish. Now, if you don't fish and nobody fishes, then I can understand that. But a man that fishes, that come here to fish, I believe it's the responsibility of Mexico Beach to, I know you think I'm crazy, but they're gonna do something with them now. I mean, they're gonna do something. There ain't enough garden to put no many fishes out here.
Then put a surcharge on all the fishermen so they can pay for the cooler.
I'll back.
And make the fishermen pay for a service to haul it off. Because didn't you say that there was a group in town that wanted the city to have the cooler and the rolling cans and then the city maintain it and haul it off?
They want us to do everything.
Well, then have
That's a
the
group of
fishermen pay
fishermen,
for
but they
that.
don't want to do anything. They want the city to do it all.
Well, then surcharge.
Are you calling a cooler a freezer or a cooler?
This
No, a walk-in freezer cooler.
we're
Well,
talking
I
about,
wouldn't want anything anybody could walk in. Something that you could slide your fish in, keep the people out of there, because somebody's gonna tear it up.
I think we're not thinking about the same thing. Those of us who've been here a long time knows that old Jim McCullough used to let you clean your fish at the ramp right there at Hideaway Harbor, and he'd lower you a bucket on a string. Said, put your carcasses in here, don't throw them in the canal. You're laughing, you remember, I appreciate that. He would take them and put them in his bait walk-in cooler. But he had a crabber that would come by every day and get the discard. Now, this is back before we had 100 boats fishing too now.
Yeah.
So, but this is a real problem. It is a problem.
Bay City Lodge, which I fish in Appalachia a lot. I fish there a lot, and they have somebody come by. I clean fish there from Thanksgiving to Christmas every day for 3 days. And then that man, I fished him, man, I can't think of his name right now, but they have a man come by and picks up them goods, heads every day. Who? I don't know. They had a backwood sitting there. And then they go over to Congress, we'll put it in that, something, I don't know who got it.
It would have to be a pretty good sized cooler, and it would cost money to operate it. It would cost money to keep it clean, cost money to empty it. It could be a partial solution for everybody except the people that don't clean the fish down there, and they're gonna throw them in the canal. And then you have to scratch yourself. We've talked about this every year, and every council before me for the previous 10 years have talked about it. But the question is, though, and this is a good question for you to answer, do we need fish cleaning stations down there, even if we had to put up a sign, don't throw them in the canal?
Yes,
Do we need those fish cleaning stations?
yes.
And then where they gonna put the goods?
Again, that's their responsibility.
Would CDC help out with the cooler? I mean, they talk about
Well-
tourism and,
I doubt it.
I don't know. Something we can ask. If you don't ask, you never know.
put a dumpster at CDC and let them dump.
We should insist.
Well, I mean, we spent an awful lot of money fixing up the canal, nearly $3 million bucks.
Yeah,
That's a tremendous investment by every citizen in Mexico Beach, and to go back to the well and say, we want you to pay another $25,000, $30,000 a year to discard fish heads. Well, I can tell you this, that's a lot cheaper than an $80,000 a year grinder. It's a lot cheaper than that. But whether it works or not, I'm not sure.
There's options, somebody's got to find them. Whether the fisherman's got to find them, or you or y'all.
So,
We can work on this all the way between now and this summer, but we got to tell Jeff in the next couple of weeks. So y'all think about this. Are we going to put in the fish cleaning station?
would George consider a fee for, bring them to him? I mean, I don't know how many he can handle.
I don't,
He can't handle that many.
no, I don't think he's gonna be in that business. It's gonna take somebody, just like he's talking about, that specifically does that full-time. Because we have a lot of fish heads. But do we have to have the fish cleaning stations right by the water?
We have to have about the running water.
I know, but my point is, it's real easy to throw them when you're just 6 feet from the water. If you could move them back, I know you'd have to carry the fish from the boat over across the street or somewhere, but the farther you get away from that, then if you want to have the freezer or the cooler down, they'd be more likely to take it there and less likely to throw it in the water.
Part of that is the actual plumbing for the runoff from the table to go to the canal. That part we can put in the canal. I think they put the pipes in by the pads.
The pads they're sloped towards the canal, and there's a hose bib there, but there's not a inlet that's gonna collect the water and run it directly into the canal. So, there was supposed to be a sanitary stub out to it, but DEP wouldn't let us make that connection, and Bay County wouldn't let us make that connection because too many chemicals.
I recall that, we took that line out.
Does
It
anybody,
actually went to the sewer, not the canal.
Right.
what does St. Joe do? I mean, I sit there
You just tell
at
them.
dockside and see them cleaning fish and I mean, communities have to be doing something with it. There's a solution somewhere.
They put selected people are allowed to use that fish cleaning station. It has a grinder, and it was put in, it was piped into the sanitary sewer system, and it was immediately disconnected from the sanitary sewer system because it plugged it up. And they piped it to the bottom of the lagoon at Port St. Joe Boatyard. That's all I'm gonna say about that. That's the truth. I didn't mention permits.
No, I didn't hear that.
Okay? That's all the miscellaneous I can afford to talk about.
Mr. Mayor, I have two things, if all possible.
Please.
Hang on, loud. Everybody hear? We've had a couple of incidents of residential burglaries. In actual fact, they were vehicle burglaries where each of the cars were left unlocked. There were some firearms in the vehicles, again, left unattended, unlocked, unsecured. Only one of the three firearms could be possibly identified. So I urge you, as individuals, notify your neighbors, if you make contact, lock your items weekend, with one officer a shift, it's kind of hard to do everything that we really truly want to do. So I ask each of you, and again, to pass this on, if you hear your dogs barking at night, everybody that we spoke to, all said between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning when the burglaries had occurred, each of them said, well, we heard the dogs barking, we just assumed it was the bear. So don't assume it's just a bear. It's probably somebody that doesn't belong where they are at that particular moment. So please call us, call the department. We'll be really glad to have somebody come out there. All right, that's what you were asking us to do as police officers for the community, so I want you to use us to our fullest potential. Second of all, for those that have never met one of our officers that came to our department on the 22nd of February 2016, this officer, Brevin Savage, you stand up please. So if you've not met her, this is she. She's the only female officer that we have in the city. I forwarded an email to each of your city sites. If you would take a moment to read over it, there's some information in there in regard to her training. In the 5 months that I've been placed in the position of police chief, I've established a recognized field training program where adequate training is being given to each of our officers. The 5 months that I've been here, I've been here 2.5 years, but 5 months as police chief, we've had 2 officers already complete the program, and they're individually working on their own and doing very well. So the program does work. But if you're put to this job and not given adequate training, oftentimes you're thrown to the wolves, and unfortunately, that's the outcome that you get with improper training. So right now, she's in the phase 2 of the 3 phase of training. So if you see her out and about, she is here to help as much as every other officer is. But the main thing that I'm going back to that I spoke about at the start with, if you hear something, report something. That's crucial this time.
When you asked me to put out the community alert,
Yes.
when that happened, just so you'll know how people responded to that, I had 2,600 people who read that.
Well, I
So
appreciate that
spread it
very much.
around. Can you give us an update on the 2 killers who have been in Escambia and Santa Rosa, and we are all on the alert here?
Earlier today, I received a phone call. They thought a citizen had seen them in Mexico Beach. In actual fact, it was a white car that was similar to what was reported. But as much as we can. And can we come on in here?
He's been, yeah,
Well, they shot him at 5:30. Yeah, sure, they shot him at 5:30.
in Georgia.
So there's your answer right there. So obviously, he was not in Mexico Beach as reported.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, thank you. But any other questions? Thank you.
I have nothing.
Don't do it.
Review the agenda. Twice, I got it right, 18 months.
All right. It's all the same. I'm not going to go line by line. Scheduled appearances will be Dewberry. Public hearing can be removed. That's going to be postponed until next month, per the petitioner's request. First, we'll have an ordinance for the marijuana moratorium. Then, not on the draft agenda, will be another ordinance regarding the vacant lot change. Under resolutions, we'll have the resolution regarding the DOT transfer of Highway 98 and the new construction of the road. And on other business, you can remove number 1, because that will not be happening. But you can add, and if you're ready, I'm going to read them off. Street lighting, LED, Farmdale, and the fee schedule, I believe, but that will probably be in resolution form. But that'll be on the agenda too. Is there anything I'm missing?
Silence. I guess that means no.
He bring that up, Pebble Ridge.
What's that?
No, I'd ask him about a change order for the sidewalk. He'll do that on his presentation, if they have it ready.
Yeah, I'll be ready.
I think that's all.
That. Again, it can change in the next 2 days. You never know.
That's
What-
Thursday.
that just popped in my head. You know, with the canal issues, the dredge being gone, and us with the Long Reach trying to keep everything maintained and keep it open, been getting a few, everybody knows the email that went out this morning, and I've gotten a few others about digging out the west side, just so that the council's aware. Our permit doesn't allow us to excavate the west side out with the Long Reach. That's why, the original plan was to do that, but that's why we haven't.
What do you use to excavate it?
We use the dredge when, we can't excavate it out with the Long Reach or any sort of piece of equipment and stockpile it on the beach.
Until we get our brand-new grant working, which will allow us to excavate it and put it in a truck and carry it to 29th Street. That we may not get any of that done before the 1st of May because of the turtle season. So we'll have to pump it across when the dredge comes back. Anything else? Thank you very much.